When we talk about the creation of public places and experiences and guest experience in general, what we're really talking about is a orchestration of many pieces that have to come together into something that's completely seamless. And that orchestration is really the magic. When one part falls apart, the chain falls apart. And where's the clicker? Minor technical difficulties, talk amongst yourselves. Oh, there it is. Got it. Sorry about that. So why do guest experiences matter? They affect who we are, who we were, who we will be. They affect our families, our friendships, our aspirations, our inspirations. And at the end of the day, guest experiences are actually a business decision. How do they affect our lives? Well, when we think about who we were, who we could be, whether we know it or not, the experiences that we've had are adding up in our head, and we're going back to them constantly. When you have a bad experience, you may or may not remember it. You have a good experience, the same, but there's an effect up here and in here that sort of never goes away. So how do we humanize places and experiences? This is one of my favorite topics. Flying here on a certain airline was a wonderful experience because they didn't treat you like livestock. In the United States, domestic air travel is terrible. It's get them on, get them off, and hopefully they don't ask for anything. So guest experience design is a core element of the creation of public spaces. It's not a nice to have. It's not going to happen organically. It's something that you have to engineer, that you have to make happen. So these concepts that we're going to talk about apply to many different types of facilities. Sports and entertainment is kind of where I've done most of my work, and that's a real laboratory for how you take all those systems and subsystems and put them together, and how do you deal with a lot of people. But this applies to casinos. This applies to retail streets and plazas. This is a museum in San Francisco called the Exploratorium. People love this place. It's a science and innovation museum, mainly aimed at children. It's sort of a living museum where they build the exhibits. Some things come, some things go. A lot of stuff is built by artists. But the reason that people love this place is that the experience of going there is really wonderful. It's a 900-foot long pier building on the Embarcadero, San Francisco Bay. It's very easy to navigate. There are imperfections, of course, but the one thing that I've always noticed about it is when it's crowded, it doesn't feel crowded, and that's a really wonderful thing. This applies to, the things that we're going to talk about apply to performance spaces, airports, parking structures, hospitals, corporate environments, so literally everything. So what I'm going to show you today, you could put on any kind of project, and if anybody can find one that they can't do it, call me. So the challenge, especially in sports and entertainment, is how do you take these concepts and apply them to a place that has, 10,000 people, 12,000 people, 60,000 people, 100,000 people, or how do you do it in a smaller environment where there are 10 people or 100 people? Again, it all works the same. The execution is different, but the thinking is the same. What I'm going to talk about today is not a how-to. This isn't a handbook. This is a mindset. This is how you can think about things, and everybody's going to come up with their own way to apply it. And I encourage that. But this is a framework to work from. So the guest experience cycle. This is just a way to look at when somebody comes into a place. What happens? Okay. First off, they become aware of the place. And of course, we've got a million channels now to become aware of the place or the experience or the whatever you're going for. And then there's the entry. Sitting in a line for an hour waiting for a train this morning, there was an accident, so I'll give them that credit. But the entry into that experience was terrible because there was absolutely nothing to do except standing in the line. Those days need to be over. Number one, there shouldn't be a line. And number two, if there is, there needs to be something to do to kind of take your mind off the fact that you are standing in line for an hour waiting. And then here's where the rubber hits the road. You're in the experience, you're in the place, and the place has to engage you. It has to be dynamic. It has to talk to you, and you have to talk to it. The exit is another place where things tend to fall apart, especially in sports facilities. They open the doors and tell everybody to get out. There's nothing to say that we appreciate that you've been here. There's nothing to say that here's something to do while you're on your way out. And then you create advocates. So these are the people who have gone through that experience, and now, hopefully, you've really delighted them, and they want to go out and tell everybody what happens. And this line is where the cycle happens, because now they've told people, and those people are going to come and do the same thing. Now, if you've created a bad experience, then they're probably going to tell more people than if you created a good one. So I'm going to give you 6 essential elements that you can apply to how you think about the design. And I should say, this could apply to software. I mean, this is not just physical spaces. I happen to live in the architecture built environment world, but this applies many other ways. Number one, physical. Am I comfortable here? So if you go to a sports arena, for example, are the seats wide enough? Is there enough room to move in the corridor when you've got 17,000 people? What's my general level of comfort being in there? This is not the fun stuff, but it is very important, the functional side. How do I park? How do I get my tickets? How do I get in? Are there enough restrooms? How do I get my food? And there are a million systems out there right now to try and address that. None of them are perfect, but people are trying. Sensory. This is really an interesting, I think, part of the experience. Does the place engage all of my senses? So touch. I could be in there and there's an interactive sort of environment that I'm involved in. Smell. Think about you go to a park or a plaza and you smell flowers instead of the other things that you might smell in a park or a plaza in the city. Sound is one that is very, very important, and you're going to hear more later about that. The perception that sound can be overwhelming, sound can be underwhelming, sound can be effective, and sound can be nothing. So sound is a way to engage people in the event, in the experience, in the place, in a way that a lot of people don't think about. And then we move on, we sort of cross a line right here. So that's all the stuff that you sort of have to do. Now we get to the stuff that you really should do. How do you make the place memorable? And we're leading up to the end of the book here. The memory is the engagement. How did I interact with the place? And I always tell all my clients, you have to create a photo opportunity. Now, luckily here, there are photo opportunities everywhere. We have to manufacture them. And I showed you this photo earlier. People love the Exploratorium. They've got these exterior signs, and there's signs at the entry. The logo kind of led to this idea of cutting a hole in it. And that's great. That's the picture everybody wants. Everybody wants except the facilities guys who have to keep fixing this because people are doing this. This is my daughter, and this is the first time that we visited, and both of my daughters got this picture taken. But if you go on any image search, you will find thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures of people sticking their face in that, getting their photo taken. It costs nothing to do that. The folks at the museum wanted to put something around it so people couldn't get at it. And I said, no, you just have to get used to fixing it. That's the way it is. I was standing there one day, and a skateboarder was shooting through there. And he did it over and over again. He's a little guy, but he could pull it off. So now we've crossed kind of another line into the intellectual. How does this place make me feel? everybody is creating a list in their head, whether they know it or not, about the feelings that they have toward whatever the experience is. And at some point, they might come back and analyze it. At another point, they may never analyze it, but it's always there. There's an intellectual reaction to all the experiences that we have that then gets us to the magic that we're looking for, which is the emotional connection. Why do I love this place? And I'll give you a quick example with my family. There's a retail center that we have been going to for 20 years. I have identical twin 17-year-old daughters now. And when they were born, two things had to happen. I had to get my wife the hell out of the house because she was going crazy. And we needed a place to go to just hang out. Now, this is a retail shopping center. It's since been renovated. It's better than ever. But we went there not necessarily to shop, but we did. We went there not necessarily to have a meal, but we did. We just went there to hang out. And there was this fountain, and we just would go and you walk around with a double-wide stroller, and everybody's cursing at you because you're getting in their way. But that's the magic of it. When you create places that people love, they will return. And I said earlier that design and this guest experience design is a business decision. That's because you need people to return to sustain the business, right? So the theme of the day here is owning your future. I'd suggest that we not only own our future, but we own everybody's future. And in the creation of great public spaces, great experiences, great places to go, we're sort of giving the world something that it doesn't necessarily have on an everyday basis. Thank you.